This is Angel's Horn turntable. They call it H00501. I reckon they should really reconsider their naming skills. I absolutely detest unboxing videos, so I'm not gonna do that. However, I'm gonna film how well the turntable is protected for transportation. This is apparently a box, the turntable's inside, so let's have a look at that. It's been sent to me by Angel's Horn themselves to make a review. I've never played about with a cheap turntable before. Well, it's rather cheap, but certainly not the cheapest. It was sent to me from Amazon UK, and at the time of making this video it cost £270 in the UK, which is about $315. If you're somewhere in the EU, you've got it much cheaper. It's €270 or dollars, it's pretty much the same, and in the US it's $260. So, in the UK, it's $90 more expensive. It sucks for the UK, as usual. On the official website, it costs about $260 in the US, EU and the UK, so it's much better to order the turntable from here, if it's in stock that is. Some of their turntables can get quite pricey, for instance this one. 10 trillion bucks may be a little bit too much for my taste, but there may be somebody who pays for that. I found out that Angel's Horn is a Chinese company, and to be honest, I'm not too keen on Chinese products. Pretty much everything that comes from China is, well, rubbish. There's only a handful, maybe not even a handful of Chinese companies that make actual good stuff. I know of one, and that's DJI. Their drones and gimbals are actually really good. Other than that, there's none really. So I was thinking, what if there's not just one Chinese company with reusable stuff? So I took up on the offer and here I am. I told them if I find any sort of issue or I won't like it or it's rubbish, I'm not gonna hold back. And they agreed, so they must be confident about the quality of the turntable. Just for the review, I have borrowed two different turntables for a comparison. The cheapest turntable I could find and one that's for about the same price as the Angel's Horn. The cheapest one is this one. It's from a Swiss company called Lenco, which I've never heard of and cost about 50 quid. It's cheap, looks atrocious, and I wonder if it even plays records. Then for roughly the same price of the Angel's Horn, I've chosen a turntable from Lenco as well, which looks a bit similar. To compare the Angel's Horn against something at the top, my absolute favorite Yamaha GT 2000. The design is not bad, it's rather minimalistic as lots of turntables look like nowadays. It's not an epitome of design mastery, I actually sort of like it, even though I fancy more robust designs. It certainly looks better than the Denver or Crosley or other suitcase turntables, but again pretty much everything does. The Yamaha is of course on another level, well more like another planet. But the Yamaha doesn't and didn't cost half a monkey. The back of the turntable is pretty much standard. You've got speaker terminals for included loudspeakers, or if you don't want to use them, there are RCA connectors for an amp or a preamp, depending on how this switch is set. It's got everything any other turntable's got nowadays. A see-through dust cover, a platter with a mat, an arm with a moving magnet cartridge, and speed change knob which includes 33 and 45 RPM and Bluetooth. There's no 78 RPM, not too many people use it nowadays anyway, moreover you'd need a different cartridge and this turntable is not exactly for people who change cartridges regularly. The Bluetooth feature is utterly useless, it doesn't send the signal out to Bluetooth speakers or an amplifier or whatever could play it, but rather it's there to receive the signal and play it back. Why? What is not utterly useless though is the inbuilt phono preamplifier, without which these loudspeakers wouldn't work. Well, they would, but they would play too quietly. The inbuilt phono preamp is also quite handy if you want to connect the turntable directly to a power amp, otherwise you would need an external preamp, which you can use anyway if you don't want to use the inbuilt one. There's no anti-skating feature, which may interfere with its sound performance a bit, namely left channel can be a little bit louder, because the tip of a needle presses more on the left side of a groove in a record, but I haven't registered any issues with it, so it's probably fine. At first sight, it looks like it's well built. At second sight, it's a little bit flimsy here and there. For instance, the counterweight which goes here. I've got one issue with it. Well, two issues really. This bit, a scale, which would help you to set up the proper tracking force, is a bit dodgy and wobbly. It wouldn't go amiss to make it a little bit tighter, and maybe even use those clickety-clacks to mark at least half a gram, so it would be easier to set the tracking force up. Cause when you're turning the counterweight to adjust the tracking force, it's easy to touch the scale and misalign it. Also, the scale doesn't reflect proper weight, it's a bit off. One turn should be 2 grams, but it's not, it's about 1.9, so it's better to use your own scales. It's not expensive, it costs a couple of quid on eBay, and it's much more precise than the scale on the counterweight. The body is made of wood, most probably plywood with a vinyl veneer on it. It doesn't peel off anywhere, or I can't see any bubbles or any inconsistencies on the surface, so it's made quite well. These two knobs fit quite nicely, they feel rather solid and they are nice to turn. The feet are positioned into a triangle, which saves space and probably some money, but it doesn't really make it more stable, does it? Next time, just make 4 feet for the bloody turntable. Speaking of feet, they are not solid hard feet, they are rubbery feet that seem like they could isolate some vibrations, so let's test it. While a record was playing, I was hitting the desk next to it quite hard and it didn't skip or stop or whatever, so I can say it's quite stable. The turntable is belt driven, which means the motor is connected to the platter through this belt. Some say it reduces vibrations and other noises opposed to a direct drive, where a motor is usually directly under a platter and driving the platter, well, directly. The Yamaha, for instance, is direct drive, and she doesn't suffer from any unwanted motor noises or vibrations or whatever, she's completely silent. On the other hand, the engine's horn is not, the motor is a little bit loud. I haven't noticed any weird sounds coming out of the loudspeakers, so I reckon it's fine, unless nothing is playing and you're sitting next to it. The arm unfortunately doesn't automatically return to the start position when it reaches the end of a record. But it's a cheap turntable, so I can't expect it to be ultra feature-rich. It however turns off after a couple of minutes of grinding a record center, so at least the needle won't cut the center out if you let it run and fall asleep or something. Speaking of a needle, the turntable came with the Audio-Technica AT3600L moving magnet cartridge, which is quite popular in cheaper setups. Now let me compare it to my Yamaha GT2000 and the other turntables I've borrowed. The Yamaha is built like a tank, it's gorgeous, nothing is rattling, wobbling, wriggling or squeaking, everything is precise and working perfectly. She's clearly superior in every conceivable way, but also a lot pricier. The suitcase turntable though is disgusting and I hate it. Nothing is precise here, everything is flimsy and dodgy and outright terrible. It cost £50 and it shows, so if I want to compare the Angel's horn to this Minga, it's like day and night. Now let's compare the Angel's horn to the Lenko, and that's quite interesting. I wanted a similar turntable for a comparison, but I wasn't prepared for how similar these two actually are. If it weren't for the logo, I'd say it's the same turntable with a different color. Pretty much everything is exactly the same. The body's got exactly the same dimensions, it's got exactly the same arm, exactly the same platter, exactly the same dust cover, even some finer details are the same, it's got the same feet, and of course the same cartridge. Even the bloody box and polystyrene protection is the same. The only difference is a logo, different body color, and different controls. And of course, since they've got the same hardware and the same cartridge, they sound exactly the same. I reckon they came from the same factory, maybe even the same line. It seems to me like it's the same company but registered in Switzerland under a different name. Since I've got the version with the loudspeakers, let's have a gander at how the loudspeakers look and sound. The good thing is they are made of wood, it's not some cheap plastic. They are small but quite sturdy and it looks like they are well built. They are two-way speakers, the drivers are made of paper of course, you can't expect beryllium or carbon fiber at this price range, and the protective grills fit quite well. They are not a paragon of perfect design, just the standard looking speakers that can stand pretty much everywhere. The loudspeakers are not particularly loud, they are 18-watt speakers and they are not suitable for very large rooms, but they are enough for pretty much any room in your typical house or flat. The speakers sound pretty good for what they are. It's nothing to write home about, but they would suffice for most people aiming for this price. Now when I see the entire setup with the loudspeakers and think about it, the Bluetooth function is not completely useless. Before I wasn't considering people who don't have any sound system at home. In that case, you can use the Bluetooth to connect to your computer or a mobile phone or whatever, and you'd get quite satisfactory stereo sound system with a turntable for a good price. And now the most important bit, the sound. I've been using it for about a month every day and played all sorts of records. First, I've listened to the turntable using its internal preamp and the speakers that came with it, and I was quite pleasantly surprised. For what it is, it sounds surprisingly good. I expected some crackling, distorted sound, etc. But it's clear, highs are not ear-piercing, mids are not very engaging though. The sound is a bit dull. Some bass is there, not very much though. The loudspeakers are small, you can't expect speakers this small to smash you with a sound wave. Overall, for the price, the loudspeakers are very good. Then I connected the turntable to the Sony TAE88 preamp, which is considered to be one of the best preamps ever, and my Infinity IRS Sigma loudspeakers. And bloody hell, I was gobsmacked, it sounds outstanding. I recorded some samples for you to listen to later on, but now to compare it to my Yamaha GT2000 and the Sony H00501 cartridge, the difference is rather negligible. The engine's horn is just a teeny tiny bit muffled, or not as clear as Yamaha, and the highs are not as nice, but other than that it's bloody awesome it is. Sure, the main reason is the Audio Technica cartridge, but still, it sounds cracking no matter what the reason is. There are a couple of minor issues though. The engine's horn is a little bit faster than it should be. The upper sample here is the Yamaha, which is 33 RPM dead on. Even though the engine's horn is a little bit faster, it's pretty much impossible to hear some miss during normal listening. Another issue is with the arm, or rather a cartridge, or more like internal preamp. If you want to try a different cartridge, you can, sure, but if you want to use it together with the internal preamp, you can use only moving magnet cartridge. For moving coil cartridge, the internal preamp has to be turned off and the turntable has to be connected to an external head amp. I've directly recorded a couple of tracks for a comparison for you to hear using my RME DAC. I've chosen tracks that are not copyrighted, of course, and recorded them using all three turntables. The length goes out since it's the same thing as the engine's horn. After each track, I clean the tip of the needle and the record to make sure it's in a pristine condition for the next recording. I've recorded the engine's horn twice with its internal preamp enabled and then disabled. Also, I'm gonna upload the video with the highest possible bitrate and 24 bits to sort of compensate for YouTube's compression. Not sure if it's gonna have any effect whatsoever though. So have a listen and judge for yourselves what's better. To get it out of the way, first a quick comparison with the suitcase. As you can hear, the suitcase is utterly atrocious, so there's no point in testing it any further. let's wrap this up then. Is the turntable suitable for audiophiles or somebody who's after the ultimate build quality or sound quality? Well, for audiophiles, it's too cheap, regardless of the sound quality, naturally. For somebody who craves absolute sound quality, well, you heard it yourselves, it's almost indistinguishable from the Yamaha, but it still has its reserves. Is it for somebody who craves utter build quality? No, not at all. It's well built for the price, but it's got some issues like the loose scale or free legs, or it's a bit faster than it should be. For the price, the design is not horrible, it's rather nice to look at, it's not an epitome of design, or I'd call it slightly above average. It certainly doesn't insult me or irritate me, like for instance any suitcase player. It won't cock up any room by its appearance, you can put it pretty much anywhere and be quite chuffed about playing your record. I'd say it's for people who want to get in the world of vinyl records, but don't want to spend a fortune and every second of playing a record looking for differences between this turntable and something else. It sounds awesome and it can sit on a desk or some shelf and it's gonna look fine there. And there's the video. Massive shout out to all my patrons and Angels Horn who sent the turntable, and see you next time. Cheerio.